Welcome to 561 Music. My name's Ben. We don't have Hector today. He's away on vacation. I hope he's managing to relax. I know that relaxing is easier said than done sometimes. So hopefully he's managing to have a nice time and really just sort of enjoy his vacation. But yeah, so we had a relatively busy weekend over the weekend. Band-wise, we played one show up at Taco Tiki, which is always a good time. We have some really interesting people who come and dance to that show. It's always a blast. It's up in Jensen Beach, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was busier than usual when we play there, and it was a blast. We had a riot up at Taco Tiki, and then I played a couple of solo shows, which I'm starting to get the hang of. I've been doing the solo shows off and on for years and years, but I'm kind of trying to dial it in now. And so, you know, for the one I did at Palm Beach Meets on Saturday, I had my looper in the middle, and then I had feet drums either side. It was I just brought out all the big guns, and it was fun to experiment with that. It was a blast. And then I did a private event over at Swank Specialty Produce on Sunday. If you don't know anything about Swank Farms, it's a cool place. It's they provide all sorts of vegetables and herbs and things for the restaurants in the Palm Beach County area and beyond, and it's beautiful stuff. And I think they have their license to grow hemp now too, so they're diversifying in that direction, like so many are. And yeah, it's a cool spot. They do these great dinners in the sort of autumn through to the spring, and the fall through to the spring. So if you want to go out to a farm and do something a little bit different in season, you should go check that place out. But yeah, I was just there for a Father's Day kind of private event thing, and it was really fun because Jodie and I go way back, and Darren, her husband, and so you know, it's kind of just felt like I was playing a family party almost. I've known those guys for a long time. Yeah, so we have Tony Testa with us this week. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure. You're a very accomplished musician, and it's nice to have some. We have a lot of accomplished musicians on here, but it always makes me happy when we have someone on who really knows their instrument and knows how to play. So that's awesome.
Thank you. It means a lot. Yeah.
It's my pleasure. So how did you get into? What was the environment like when you were young, and were your parents supportive of your sort of musical aspirations from a young age?
Sure, yeah, the genesis question. So music was always around and part of my life. I'd say as a child, though, as a kid growing up, I was more passionate about sports.
Right.
So, you know, played sports throughout my life, and at one point I really wanted to go to college for sports, but at the same time, piano was always around because, you know, my family's musical. I think a lot of it stems from my grandparents who were in show business.
Really? In what regard?
Yeah. So my grandmother was a singer, and her career really, took off as a skater, and she was part of a show called the Roller Folies. So back in the day, if you wanted to see entertainment, there was touring shows that would come to town.
Sure.
Right? Entertainment's a little bit different nowadays, but she joined this touring show called the Roller Folies. This whole routine of skaters and singers would come on stage, and they go to town. And it's that show where she actually met my grandfather, who has a bit of a crazy story. He was actually brought up as an orphan in Rhode Island.
Right.
And, he ran away, and at the age of 15, he started working at a roller rink where he built his own boots, story goes, and he actually became pretty good on the skates.
Right.
So he found out that the show was coming to town, and he auditioned. The producers of the show loved him because he was very acrobatic,
Right.
Whereas the show was a lot of more formal type skating. He was very crazy doing flips and things like that.
Cool.
So we got to have this guy.
Yeah.
But that's how he met my grandmother. So they were on the show. They toured on the show. Eventually left to do their own thing. But my grandfather was pretty well known. I mean, he was featured on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Really?
Captain Kangaroo. At the time, he skated the world's fastest mile on skates.
Wow.
Documented. He was, there was this, I forget what it's called. some sports documentary made actually like a short movie about the guy called The Wheeling Wizards or something or other. Enough plugging my deceased grandparents, but they eventually...
No, it's fascinating. And there was actually a documentary made about him?
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. He's like, as famous as non-famous gets. But the show that they were part of, the Roller Follies, the tour would sell out Madison Square Garden. It would sell out the Boston Garden. And there's all these, I have these family photos of him skating around in Madison Square Garden.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. And, they eventually retired in Pompano Beach,
right,
where the origins begin. So my grandfather passed before I really knew him. But it was my grandmother who I spent a lot of time with as a kid. She was always singing, always playing piano, always like telling me about these, performance stories and everything. And I think that's where it originates, is like just being with that relationship with my grandmother.
So they were skating and singing as well?
Grandmother was, yeah. She would sing in cabarets and things like that.
Oh, cool.
So, she, like, just being around her, always hearing like jazz music and things like that, music from that era.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think, rubbed off on me.
Yeah, absolutely. Were your parents musical at all?
Sure. So my father, being that he was the son of those grandparents, he could play a piano a little bit. He started when he was a kid. He never took it beyond anything more than just a hobby.
Yeah. But
he was the one that put me and my siblings in piano lessons as a kid.
Right.
And that's kind of where it began. So I took classical piano lessons.
Yeah. And that goes a long way. I mean, I don't think you can really have a better early understanding of music than learning the piano, because it's right there in front of you. It's laid out.
Yeah.
I think sometimes when kids start on guitar, I almost feel sorry for them, because they have to get over this hurdle of it's not immediately obvious where everything is.
Sure.
You have to you almost have to learn the shapes first, and then all of the structure behind it kind of comes later.
Yeah.
But then on the piano, you're learning theory just by learning the piano. It's just there in front of you.
Absolutely. Visually, you just understand music, I think, easier, because I started off in the piano. But as a kid, you just hate piano lessons. I hated classical music.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like reading the black and white sheet music.
Yeah.
Did not have a passion for it. It was more of one of those things that was like kind of forced upon you as a kid.
Yeah. I had a love-hate relationship with my early classical piano lessons. I mean, I did enjoy it, but it was hard and time-consuming,
Yeah, you want to run and play outside rather than like sit down and play like Beethoven for the 50th time until you've like hit every measure perfectly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And something that I think that I'm actually grateful for now, performance-wise, my father would sign me up for these piano competitions at a very young age. I remember 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, I was in these piano competitions. We'd go to a college, you'd go into this auditorium with 3 judges. You have to sit down and play your music, and that was so nerve-wracking for like a little kid, but like...
Even just doing we have the thing called the Associated, I'm not sure exactly, but it's the Associated Board, which is... the sort of formal kind of grading that you do when you're sort of getting better with your instrument in the UK. Nice. And when you go for those grades, you're essentially in front of one or two or three people who are grading you. And I did that on numerous instruments, and I used to get so stressed out by that. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And a lot of concerts too when I was young. Mm-hmm. And I think they did help in some ways, but in other ways, there was a lot of anxiety attached to it. And I think maybe one of the reasons why I ended up not pursuing that classical route is because of that sterile, kind of very intense environment. It's not necessarily what I perceived music to be about. It's almost like a sport. It's like perform for me. You know what I mean?
A lot of discipline goes into it. And as I got older and I continued to do these competitions, I would be at this point maybe like 12 or 13, playing these. Now I'm a little bit older. I'm playing these more intermediate, advanced classical pieces, and I'd go to these competitions, and there'd be like a 5-year-old Asian kid who's just like killing it, and I'm like, that's all they do is they just sit there and practice. And I was like, I kind of was doing other things at the time, but I think because of that, it made me more relaxed in performing in front of a crowd.
Sure.
And then at that point, you're like, hey, the lessons paid off. I'm actually good at this thing.
Yeah.
I'm good at the damn thing. And it was like, as you get older, you begin to listen to different types of music. And it was like, I can now translate that to the thing that now I'm passionate about, which is like different styles and different genres. And I was like, all right, screw the classical music. I want to start learning what I want to learn, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in terms of, obviously your grandparents were playing you jazz and things like that. Did your parents' musical tastes have any sort of effect? Did they listen to music?
Sure, yeah, I think so. I have these memories of, my parents would always play records in the house, primarily from their generation, right? So a lot of like 50s, 60s, 70s music. A lot of, trying to think of some of the music I'd hear is, Simon and Garfunkel, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, all this classic rock would really, I guess, play out maybe later in life for me.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, they put me in the lessons. I always heard great music in the house, which is, I'm very grateful for all those things.
So these competitions that you were in, was it just sort of different competitions, or was there a kind of like is there like a scene for that where it's always like run by the same people? Like how is it?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm sure there's certain different kinds, but I would generally sign up for the same one. What it was, you'd have the 3 judges, you'd perform, you'd be so nervous, you'd perform, and then you'd just be like, oh my God, I did terrible. Then you'd get like their report. You would actually see what their comments were. They're like, oh, messed up on that measure. Because they have your music in front of you.
Yeah.
They're reading measure by measure while you're going through it, checking like all the dynamics, all the finicios and everything else.
So it's really just about replicating it as the best you can, not really about any kind of interpretation.
Sure, and that's what, I could be wrong. Some people might disagree, but I think that's what classical music is. Like, granted, you put some passion into it, but you want to basically replicate that music as best as possible.
Sure.
Which is where
the
that
composer's
discipline,
vision, I guess.
Absolutely. And, I got sick of that. I was like, I want to sit down and play and express what I feel, my emotion, my feeling. And I think that's really where my, I guess, passion for other music and kind of strayed away from classical music at that point.
Yeah, so your style is very sort of boogie woogie and that kind of stride style and the early 20th century like black music kind of sound.
Yeah.
How did you develop a love for that? And who were some of your kind of influences in that?
Sure. Yeah.
arena?
Great question. So I think it just goes back to my father. He could play a little bit of it on the piano. I remember hearing it in the house sometimes of him like playing some blues, some boogie woogie, and it just like captivated me. I was like, what on earth is that? And like it took him a while to kind of show me what he was actually doing. And I remember, he was like basically broke it down to me, like explained what a 12-bar blues was. And from there I just took off with it. I mean, like I really like night and day, just like, and with that type of music, it's all in the left hand. Like you gotta like be able to lock it in, and then that's when the right hand can start doing things. So I would just like do the boogie woogie patterns or the bass line until it was like engraved in my mind. What
I love about talking to you right now is you can tell you're a pianist because you literally play your statements. It's
I'm Italian too, so I gotta use your hands.
It's like it's not this, it's this. That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, so I was saying to Justin a minute ago, so so much amazing music over the years. I mean, traditionally, it's come out of Italy. I wonder whether the Italianness of it. I don't want to make assumptions, but I imagine you'd have some Italian. Yeah, you just told me. Yeah. But I wonder if somewhere there's some kind of genetic predisposition to.
Sure. Yeah. For all I know, that could definitely be it. But the music was there as a kid growing up. Yeah. And then I think once I developed a passion, once I found something that I like, I just took off with it,
Yeah. That's great. Like who, in terms of sort of influential artists in that arena, have you got anyone that you really love?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So I'd say one of my greatest influences still today, but still at that time introduced me to that kind of style of music is Ray Charles.
Sure.
Always will have a mad respect for the guy.
Isn't he from Florida or something? Or did he live here or something like that?
Couldn't tell you. I think he's I'm not even gonna say this because I'm gonna be wrong, but it's not Florida. I don't think it's Florida.
Okay. I just saw something on social media a couple of days ago ago, and have you heard of a guy called Johnny Depp, John Prestige? He's a guy who plays on the Treasure Coast, and there was a picture of him hugging a sculpture of Ray Charles, and he wrote like with one of my favorite Floridians. I don't even know if it was true, and I didn't check out.
Maybe I don't know my facts. I don't know. I'll have to look that one up after this.
Yeah, totally. What about other people? I'm really curious to pick your brains on the subject because it seems like you have quite a wealth of knowledge in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely like to credit a lot to Ray. But around that time, I had this weird obsession with like 70s funk music as like a kid. So I was like obsessed with James Brown, obsessed with like Parliament Funkadelic.
Yeah.
And I think that type of music is what inspired me to pick up the bass. So like bass is my next best instrument. I used to play in a band in high school, bass guitar. But
it was bass you played in that band. Okay.
Yep.
Was that Wildfly?
Wildfly, yep.
Yeah. So how old were you when you were doing that?
Sure, yeah. So we all went to the same middle school. That's kind of where the band first started as more of a hobby. And we stuck it out till high school. And that's, we actually got pretty good with a lot of original music we wrote. And I mentioned some of those highlights to you earlier, how we were on a national airing Marooney commercial. We had opened up for Saigon Kick. We headlined Revolution Live. We were a featured band at the Winter Music Conference, which was ran by the guy who started, drawing a blank. What's the punk festival?
I'm not sure, but which one? Down here?
It doesn't exist anymore. I'm drawing a blank on it.
Oh my God! So
you know what I'm talking about?
It travels around all over the place every year.
Yeah. Warped Tour.
There you
Warped
go.
Tour?
Yeah.
Warped Tour.
I can't believe
Warped Tour.
My band that I was in is played Warped Tour, and I forgot.
Well,
what
there
it's
you
called
go.
as
Yeah,
well.
I was like, as I was like going through it, I was like, what's the name of it?
Yeah. Stupid. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, do you have a writing process when it comes to your original music? Like, how do you find yourself coming up with original material? How does that work?
Sure. A lot of it will just come from listening, right, to whatever I'm going through. A lot of emotion, I feel like, depending my mood at the time, or if I hear a song or an artist that, strikes my interest, then I'll start kind of studying what they're doing. I think a lot of it is passion, though. I just love to just sit down at the piano.
Yeah.
See where the ideas come from.
Just see where it takes you.
It's beyond us, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And in terms of lyrics, do you find yourself writing lyrics? The reason I ask is I have a phone just full of like ideas when I'm walking around, I just write them in my notepad. You do that too?
Yeah, I think every artist has their notes just filled with a bunch of lyrics. Even I'll do the voice memo. I'll just be walking around. I'll be like, I got to record this before I forget, just sing the tune, or if it's on the piano. What I'm doing now, because I would get very frustrated with myself, is when I'm just trying to be creative and not really practice too disciplined, like I'll come up with these like amazing ideas, these amazing song ideas, and then I'll forget it the next day. So now I'm like recording anything I do on the piano, because it's like you never know what you're going to come up with or find. It's
true. And I think that with your sort of quite sort of traditional approach to playing the keys and quite genre specific, I think that a really good wealth of knowledge in that area is essential in terms of writing in that area, because you don't want to do something that's just like a blatant rip off of something else. If you did do that, you wanted to make it like an homage,
Sure.
So it's important to kind of know your material, what
Absolutely.
I mean? So do you find yourself listening to a lot of that stuff still these days? Are you actively listening?
Yeah, a little bit too much. I feel like with where I'm at now, stylistic wise, the music I'm currently making, and we're going to kind of get into the album I'm about to release, but like what you just saw, that performance too, it's a lot of jazz, it's a lot of blues, excuse me, but I just want to put out music I'm passionate about. Like, I don't want this to be like my style, my who I am forever. Like, I'm writing all types of music, Latin music, disco music, funk music. So, but right now the image is just to get out what I'm passionate about, and what it originally stems from, my roots, which is like jazz and blues. That's ultimately what opened my mind and ultimately made me more passionate about music.
Yeah, cool. So interestingly, the album that you have, is Back to the Basics already out?
Not yet. July 9th, yeah.
Okay, July 9th.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We've got our last interestingly, we've got our last gig with my band's No Name Ska Band on July 9th as well.
Nice.
Bad Propaganda.
Last gig with whom?
So I play in a ska punk band called the No Name Ska Band. We've been playing for a while down here, and you know that place Propaganda in Lake Worth?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Matt Krug, who for the longest time used to run the place, is in the band.
No
He's
way.
leaving to Vegas, and so we're doing and also Justin, the drummer, is going to be leaving soon too. So we're doing a final kind of goodbye gig, and it's also on July 9th. So auspicious date. That's
sweet.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pick your
man.
poison.
Yeah.
Funny story about Propaganda though, because when I was in college at FAU, the music program I was in, so FAU has a student-ran record label. And some of the artists on the label, we partnered up with Propaganda to have them perform.
All right, cool.
And this is my freshman year of college. I just started in the program, was just introduced to the label, and they had a gig at Propaganda. And I think someone backed out, or they needed someone to fill in. And I was like, I'll do it, sweet. Like, I'm trying to gig and get out and do this damn college thing. And so we go to Propaganda, and me and my homie came along, and we snuck in. We're not 21 at this point,
Sure.
right? And the night's happening, this and that, and we pull up, had a little pint of alcohol or something. We snuck into the club, and we ordered just 2 Cokes. So we were gonna go make our drink in the bathroom and whatnot.
Right.
And we pour it, and we dish the pint or whatever. And the second we walk out with our Cokes, the owner is like, "You kids gotta go." And we're like, "How did he know? Was he just watching us? Was the bartender like, these kids just got some Cokes?" I don't know.
I think when you're that age, you think you're pulling it off.
Yeah.
But if you think now, if you saw someone who was under 21, unless they had a big beard or something, you'd be able to tell immediately.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a lot more obvious than you think it is when you're that age.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How old are you now?
Just turned 27 in May.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yes. Spring chicken, man.
Absolutely.
I wish I was 27 again. Actually, I don't know. I feel like in my 40s, I'm actually finally coming to kind of terms with myself. So maybe I'll just stick with what I've got. Not like I have a choice.
We're just gonna keep getting older. Nothing we can do.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Yeah. So are you doing a gig on July 9th to promote the album?
Absolutely. To promote the album, I will be performing at Crazy Uncle Mike's July 9th.
Right.
To obviously promote the album. I have a band that I'll be performing with. This group of guys are the same guys that recorded the album with me about a year ago.
Where did you record the album?
At Power Station Studios.
Hell yeah, I've done some stuff there.
Yeah, great guys there. Rob, the owner, is a great guy. I recorded this album with Brennan Fulton, who did the live tracking and the mixing. So highly recommend them. And then other guy, Paul, great engineer there too. All great guys and great gear. So
yeah, I love that slotted pine kind of live, the way they do the studio too. And did he tell you the story about Tony Bon Jovi and everything, and
sure.
how they set it up? Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know anything about that, that Power Station it was set up by, I think it's John Bon Jovi's uncle or something like that, or at least in the family or somewhere, and cousin or uncle.
Tony Bon Jovi.
Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's his uncle or something, and he just had this sort of great idea of using pine, but sort of these. It's all sort of figured out mathematically, but it has these sort of 2-inch pine pieces of wood, and then in between just this completely dead material, so you get a little bit of reflection but not too much, and it's just right. You know what I mean? Sounds
basically
good.
It looks super cool, and then it sounds really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there was also another one that they had called Avalon it was in Port St. Lucie, and it was designed in exactly the same way.
Cool.
I think it's still there, but I think they just do acoustics, sort of what's the word I'm looking for? If you have someone come and sort of explain it to you, I can't remember what the word is, but I think it's just for setting up other people with acoustics, to helping people with studios now.
Cool.
They don't actually have artists come in anymore. But I did a bunch of demos up there, and
Nice.
it was set up exactly the same way. It's real cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
there's a method to the madness with that design.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if there's more of them, but there's definitely two that I've seen.
Yeah.
And it's been my favorite, sort of studios to work in. I think it sounds great like that. So if anyone's interested in going to an awesome high-end studio, you can check out Power Stations. Badass.
With a lot of pine wood.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So do you still do a lot of practice at home, like just on your instrument, outside of kind of just messing, like outside of writing? Like, do you just practice songs?
Yeah, recently I have. I mean, I'll go through phases of it. When life gets busy, sometimes you don't really want to practice too much, but I will try to make it a thing to practice.
Yeah. Do you still like do rudiments and stuff like that, like scales and things?
Yeah, I'm always learning scales. I love to improvise, so I'll try to expand my vocabulary solo-wise. But generally speaking, I'll always try to be learning at least one new piece of music just to keep up with like the reading, learn new scales, or maybe I'm also really into like production, so that kind of keeps just the mind fresh of new ideas and how to implement music with different sounds and things like that.
Do you have a home studio and stuff like that?
Yeah, a little home studio. A lot of cool toys there, but you know.
Wicked. Yeah, I think, most people who are serious about music have a home studio at this point, because it's so accessible, you got to spend some money, but you don't have to go crazy, and you can end up with like pretty decent setup.
Absolutely. Just starting off, you can get the bare minimum and make a kick-ass record, what I'm saying?
Totally.
And I actually studied music production and recording at FAU, so the goal was like coming out of that, I was like, I want to get a recording job, I want to work in a studio. Obviously a little bit tough of an industry to get into.
Yeah.
But everything has a weird way of working out.
Yeah, that it does. Did you find the degree useful? Was it? Did you enjoy being at FAU? How was your experience as a student?
Yeah. So I think obviously this varies per person. Unfortunately, I didn't really enjoy college all that well. I was a terrible student. I mean, the program's one of those things that, like, what you put in, you get out of. Just for me, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. One, because I was learning more on my own than I was in the program.
Right.
And two, it just, in this industry, especially as a local artist, you really got to hustle. You really got to get your name out. You got to be playing, shows. You got to be recording. You got to be networking. You got to be collabing. And just, I feel like being inside of a classroom took away from that hustle, especially when you're not really finding value in what's being shown to you.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I don't want to talk bad about FAU. There was a lot of great professors there. It just wasn't for me, and I was a terrible student. So.
Right, gotcha. Well, when I went to university, it was really, I'd say 50% of it was because it was just like the path that I was on, because, I went to a boarding school in the south of England, and nearly everyone who went to that school was just expected to go to university. We were just funneled towards it.
Sure, yeah.
It was just what everyone, I almost felt like I didn't have a choice in a way, which is a wonderful situation to be in, honestly.
Yeah.
I certainly don't look at that in a bad way.
Yeah.
So I ended up at Manchester University and doing music. I did a music degree.
Nice.
And I think the thing that was the most helpful about it was the fact that it bought me a few years to pursue music and meet musicians.
Yeah.
Because I ended up in a band with people in Manchester. I ended up living in Manchester for 10 years because, just because of the people I met, and, the fact that I was studying and away from home. It bought me a bit of time, and it's not to say I didn't learn anything. I learned a lot. But, it was classical music, and I was a saxophonist, and really, classical music isn't my strongest suit. It's not,
Sure.
I'm glad I learned a lot of that stuff, and I put it to good use. I teach music, so I have those skills, but and I'm glad I have those skills. But really, for me, it was just the fact it bought me a bit of time. Just gave me a little bit of a window of my life where I could. Where I wasn't just locked into a job.
Yeah, I feel that.
Do you do those like kind of 3 hour, 4 hour, like, are you getting paid to go around town playing gigs like that at the moment? Are you doing those kind of gigs?
Not necessarily. So, going back pre-pandemic, I was with Tasty Vibrations. I think you had them on the show.
Yeah.
And with that group, we were gigging sometimes 3-4 nights a week, which was a lot of fun. Coming out of that though, pandemic just kind of changed everything, obviously for a lot of people and musicians and bands. So with those gigs kind of being taken away from, and I literally graduated right when the pandemic started, like 2020. Like my classes went online. I didn't get a graduation ceremony.
Yeah.
So like all this just happened at once. So I ended up getting a corporate job, working a 9 to 5, which led to, that and other creative differences kind of led to the band not working out.
Right.
But getting a job, unfortunately, that I did not like, for one thing, really took away from my musical passions. I wasn't gigging as much. So it was a tough time. I also...
I can tell you what, it can really set your priorities straight, though.
It will.
If you have a job like that, you're like, oh, this is what I don't want to do.
Absolutely. It really was tough. And at the same time, right when this was all happening, I tore my Achilles playing basketball.
Right.
I love playing pickup basketball, and it was like one of those things I was like, it's never going to happen to me. I'm never going to tear my Achilles. It's one of my biggest fears. And I popped my Achilles, which obviously made things very difficult for everything. And so now I'm like in a cast for 6 months. Band didn't work out, working this corporate job that I did not like.
Oh,
I'm like,
mate.
life sucks. I'm not doing much music. Fast forward a year, I ended up quitting. I have a new job now. I'm working remote. I work for Google. Working from home is the best. I highly recommend it for anyone. I'm never going back to an office. So I'm at that point where I have a little more flexibility.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about, it's tough because as a musician, as an artist, it's like you don't want to take away from that. You're like, I'll never get a corporate job. I'll never want to do, work for the man. I want to like stay true to like playing music and this and that. Like obviously you got to do what you got to do to survive.
For sure.
But what I like now is I can kind of like pick and choose the battles that I want. Like I don't need to take every gig. I can be like, I want that show. I want to make that much, so.
And, because I am a pretty heavily gigging musician, I sort of defend that position pretty like vehemently. But the truth is that if you play less in an area, more people are going to come and see you when you play. There's no denying it.
Absolutely.
It's like if you're playing 3 times in the same town in one weekend, you can't expect them to all be busy gigs because, people are...
Well, I'll catch them next week.
Yeah, exactly. That just happens. And the bigger the sort of catchment area, the better you do, which is why bands tour. That's what the whole point of it is. If you want to stay busy and stay playing to big crowds, that's the only way to do it.
Absolutely.
Unless for some reason you're just like the hometown hero and everyone just loves you all the time.
Sure.
That's a pretty rare position to be in.
Absolutely. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I think we're all striving to do what we love, and just, life works out in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that's a good situation to be in because if you're working from home for Google, you're right there with all your music stuff. You can kind of just be like, okay, done that. Now back to what I'm doing. Yeah.
Make a call, be like, oh wait, that's a dope idea. Get back on the piano. So it has its perks.
Is your home studio also your office?
The living room. So the living room used to be the band rehearsal space with me and the band, which still has all the music equipment in it. And then attached to that, there was a conference room, which is now my office. And then I have my room attached to what used to be a drive-in garage port that we closed off, and now that's the music studio. So the house has gone through quite a few modifications, but
right.
I basically have a setup in each room where I can just do my thing.
Yeah, that's cool. So I asked this question just because it's something that happened to me, and because a couple of years ago I sort of got sober and stuff. So I was wondering, at gigs, do you have any kind of like approach with that? Have you ever sort of felt like it was a thing that you needed to have an approach for? How do you navigate the booze and drugs and stuff like that?
Great question. Party hard now, just kidding. I'd say starting off, plus like, at least for me, I think a lot of people growing up as a young adult in South Florida, you almost have these expectations that you're supposed to party.
Yeah.
You see other people do it. It's the environment. We live in this beautiful place. It's like you need to be partying. You need to be drinking. Like a lot of the schools I went to, like you just grow up doing it. And
yeah.
So it's just like it was like I always thought everyone does it. It translated into music. It was like something I was like, oh, I have a gig, sweet, I get to get drunk now. You
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was still a very younger Tony, and as I kind of got older, especially with the band with Tasty previously, once it kind of became a job and a career, you know, that you had a responsibility, it was like, you know, if you have a gig, if you have a weekend of 3 or 4 gigs and you kind of get drunk the first night, you're going to feel like shit the rest of the gigs and not perform well.
Yeah.
And it was like, why do I keep putting myself through this? And
Absolutely. I can't believe how long it took me for that to finally get through my thick head. It's like, it's not that difficult of a job.
Yeah.
It's only difficult because you're making it difficult for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, we like to have a good time. And the other thing was, I was like, I don't want to feel like I can't perform without, you know, alcohol or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So, you know, now I'm at a position where I feel good. I can nail a show with a couple drinks, or I can nail it sober, and you're still going to get the best Tony that you're going to get.
Oh, it's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, and a healthy attitude, man. That's really, really awesome. So let's hear a little bit more about how you sort of put together the songs for the album. Like, how do you decide what to put on it? Is there a couple of covers on there as well as originals? Like, what's on there?
Absolutely.
What can we expect?
Absolutely. So, right, the idea of the album was definitely one of the highlight and showcase, as mentioned, that music that ultimately got me passionate about music, which was like jazz and blues and kind of some of those artists we were talking about earlier. And again, that's kind of my style. You've heard me play. So, you know, back to the basics just popped in my head. I was like, I have these originals, a handful of originals, that I'd written quite some time ago that I've never gotten recorded.
Right.
I was like, I need to get those recorded and out there.
Yeah.
And just to fit the vibe, was, you know, some of the songs that ultimately pushed me more, that influenced me more in regards to that style of music I wanted to showcase on the album as well. So there's 4 originals and 4 covers that I made my renditions of, that are some older blues tunes. You know, a couple jazz tunes, one composition I wrote, another one, Moanin' by Bobby Timmons, a classic jazz tune, as well as you have those originals that I did write on this album.
Yeah, how are you going to release it? Is it all going to be electronic, or are you going to do anything physical?
For sure, yeah, it's going to be digital distribution, and it's funny you bring this up because I was like, at the album release party, I want to have something people can buy. I was like, I'm going to print CDs, right?
Yeah.
Got a bunch of CDs. And I, ran that idea by a couple people. I'm like, who buys CDs? Who listens to CDs? And I was like, you're absolutely right. Like, when was the last time you went and saw a band, bought their CD, and then played it?
You know, a lot of people do buy CDs at gigs because they kind of feel like they have to, and it's very nice of everyone who does it. By the way, thank you very much for doing that, because we have CDs.
We have them.
You know, and we really appreciate you buying them. And some people still listen to them, but yeah, it's, you know, that it's definitely obsolete as a way to listen to music. I think probably vinyl is actually more relevant at this point in time.
Vinyl's hip.
Yeah, and it's also just as like a kind of like fetishized like consumer product. It's so just visceral. You can interact with it. You know, it's big, and like you get big art on the front. And everything, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the vinyl idea. Unfortunately, did not go with CDs for this album, but I still wanted something tangible that people can buy at the show. So I ordered some shirts with my logo.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm gonna print out some flyers, because the flyer is pretty cool for the party.
Yeah, nice.
I think that'd be kind of a nice, tangible thing, sentimental thing to take away from the show.
Yeah, nice. And Crazy Uncle Mike's is a great venue too, and you know that was a great place, a great idea to do it there. And also, you know, with the tables and everything, you can get a bit of a loungy kind of a feel in there, and
Absolutely.
that's definitely your vibe.
Oh,
so,
absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, looking forward to it. You know, I've played there a couple of times with the previous band, but yeah, great venue. They got a big stage, a sound system, and obviously just a lot of space to hang out and have a good time.
Yeah, excellent. I think at this point it would be a perfect time to hear you play some songs for us.
Yeah, I'd love to. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Sweet. make a grown man cry. 6, 7, 8, and 9. You're staying out late with some other guy, waiting around like a fool. You're teasing me hard, girl, you're teasing me cruel. Please be true, you know I loved you. You had me in tears and now I'm singing the blues. I told you once and I told you twice. This time around I'm gonna be so nice. 'Cause it's me and you, or you and him. I got no more time that I can spend. 'Cause I'm waiting around like a fool. You're teasing me hard, girl, you're teasing me cruel. Please be true, you know I loved you. You had me in tears and now I'm singing the blues. This is how the story goes. I need you bad, I need you so. Don't make me beg, don't make me plead. I'll be your man and I'll never leave. 'Cause I'm waiting around like a fool. You're teasing me hard, girl, you're teasing me cruel. Please be true, you know I loved you. You had me in tears and now I'm singing the blues. Here we go. This next tune is another original called Mind Games. Now is the time to be wondering why these tears come on by when I think of you. Every night I stay up late waiting for you to come home. Tell me, I should have realized these lies that you tell me. 'Cause all you do is play your mind games. Mind games. Oh yes, your mind games. Your little mind game. Yeah, 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 yeah. It wasn't fair how you let me go. I should have known you had an evil soul. These little tricks you play on me are turning out to be a catastrophe. Now that you've had your fun, I'm gonna stay with you no more, hun. This time around I'm not letting you back. 'Cause all you do is play your little mind games. Mind games. Oh yes, your mind games. Your little mind game. Yeah, 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 yeah. So go on, call you the boy on the payphone and pick you up to take home. Tell him how you love him so. I don't care for you no more. I walk on through the front door. This is when I say goodbye to your little mind games. Mind games. Oh yes, your mind games. Your little mind game. Yeah, 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 yeah. Thank you. This next one is titled Help Me. Help me, darling, I can't do it by myself. Help me, darling, I can't do it by myself. If you don't help me, darling, I'll have to find somebody else. Walk with me, darling, I wanna talk to you sometime. Walk with me, darling, I wanna talk to you sometime. Long walks with me, baby, help me clear my worried mind. Well, the sun gonna shine in my back door someday. Well, the sun gonna shine in my back door someday. When the moon comes along, wash my troubles away. Well, bring me my nightshirt and get your morning gown. Bring me my nightshirt and get your morning gown. 'Cause when the morning comes, babe, all my troubles have gone away.
561 Music is brought to you by Handlebars Bar and Grill. It's a biker bar in Tequesta. If you don't know where Tequesta is, it's just sitting right on top of Jupiter. It's the next town north. If you're heading north on US 1, you'll see a little yellow building, and outside there's almost always bikes. It's open every day, and the food is great. Bernsey, the chef, does a great job in there, and he's a real character. You should go hang out with Bernsey and see what that's all about. He has a whole ton of really nice food available, and there are proper beers on tap. We got like 5 or 6 different beers on tap, and there's all, anything you could want there. It's a fully stocked bar, but apart from it's only, well, that was kind of a lie. It's only beer and wine, so it has that about it. But really, really good. Really good draft beers, and there is a bike night every second Thursday of the month, and we do a jam every fourth Sunday of the month. At the moment, we are fighting the village of Tequesta to be able to do live music there, which is a bit of a pain, but I'm sure we'll get over that hurdle at some point. And if anyone out there knows someone who can put in a good word to us with the village of Tequesta, or help us in any way in that regard, we'd really appreciate it. The place has been refurbished by my father-in-law, and he's done a great job of it, and it's really cool. So if you're heading on a bike sort of trip with your friends, like some kind of ride out on a weekend, it's a perfect little stop in, because it's right on the side of the road there on US 1, and you can just pull in, have a beer and a burger, and then head out on your way. It's designed like that as a biker bar. It's been a biker bar there for years, for decades. It used to be called Judy's, and run by a guy called Victor and his wife Judy. Victor sadly is recently passed on in May, which is very sad. But we keep his spirit alive over at Handlebars Bar and Grill. So come check it out. The other place that sponsors 561 Music is Oasis Root Kava Bar. Now, this place is run by this great guy, Jim. He supports the podcast, and very kindly, we really appreciate his sponsorship, because without it, we wouldn't be able to do it. It costs money for the studio time, so we really appreciate it. And big shout out to Jim. If you've never had Kava before, it's a Polynesian root that you grind up and you mix with water. It's been around for ever in Polynesia, that maybe thousands of years, but it's really been around in the US for about 15. It has a sort of relaxing effect on you, and if you don't drink or something like that, it's a great place to go and hang out. It's it's not sort of narcotic. It's not going to knock you off your stool. And so the vibe is much more like a coffee house than a bar. The feel in a Kava bar is sort of somewhere in between. Somewhere in between a coffee house and a bar. It's a cool spot. They do a poker night in there, and all the staff are lovely. I go and hang out in there sometimes, and it's really cool. It's a great spot. So if you've never tried Kava, Oasis Root is a really good place to go and try it for the first time, because he has top quality product, and he does a great job. The atmosphere is wonderful in there. And the other sponsor we have for the show is Live Music Community, who are presenting this fantastic event. It's called Give and Let Give, and it's on Sunday, July 10th from 2 until 4 p.m. Now, the idea behind Give and Let Give is that we're putting musical instruments and music gear into the hands of kids who need it. So if you're an adult, the price of admission is a piece of gear, and you get to leave with a piece of gear. But obviously, in the spirit of the event, don't bring sort of a comb with some baking paper around it like a kazoo and leave with like a PA speaker. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get stuff into the hands of kids. But obviously, come with a piece of gear, leave with a piece of gear. And the kids, they get to just come. They don't have to bring any gear, and then they get to leave with a piece of gear. So it's really just about arming these kids so that they can be the future of the Florida music scene. And we're super proud to be able to present this. I work at Live Music Community, and it's where we're recording this podcast right now. This was Justin's idea, who runs Live Music Community. I think it's a spectacular idea. We've had 2 previous ones, and they've gone really, really well. And Hector and I from 561 Music Podcast will be here helping out and just kind of generally sort of showing people what's available and helping you test the gear and stuff like that. And on the previous 2, Give and Let Gives, we had a little bit of a setup in the live room where we're recording the podcast right now, where you can try stuff out and have a little jam with people and kind of, it's a little bit of a social event too. So if you're interested in that, then you should come down and check it out, because I just think it is the best. There is just no downside to this event. It is redistributing musical wealth essentially, and the previous 2 have just been resounding successes. So come down, check it out on July 10th from 2 to 4 p.m. at Live Music Community, which is a music school in Palm Beach Gardens at North Lake and Military Trail. It's real easy to find. It's on the northwest corner of North Lake and Military Trail. All right, so getting back to you, Tony, I wanted to ask you, seeing as we were talking about Live Music Community, do you have any sort of advice that you would give a young musician who's coming up, who's a teenager now, who's kind of looking to get into the music biz? What would you say to them? What advice would you give them?
Sure, yeah. I would probably break it into two different pieces of advice. First one would be if music is your calling, if it is what you're passionate about, what you want to achieve in life and become great at, there is a level of discipline that goes into what you do. Just be passionate about your craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
And keep in mind, this is something my father would always tell me growing up, like, while you're sitting down, laying down on your phone watching TV, there's someone out there that's doing the damn thing. They're practicing their guitar, they're producing music, they're chasing that gig, they're working on their promotion, working on their marketing. So just keep that in mind. Always, any free time you have, if this is what you want to do, you gotta allocate some time to it.
Practice. It's something that every teacher tells every student since the beginning of time, but it cannot be stressed enough that if you don't do it, you're not going to get better at it.
Absolutely.
You got to practice.
Absolutely, yeah. We're all guilty of it, but at the same time, use your youth and time while you got it, Yeah,
absolutely, because you definitely learn better when you're young, for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the next piece would be open-minded to the different possibilities and opportunities that will be presented to you. Don't think of it so black and white, like I need to do this, it needs to end up this way. Life has a weird way of working out and showing you different signs, and just go with the flow and you'll be all right.
Yeah, that's some great advice right there. Right. So what were the songs, your original songs that you played us, the first 2? What were they about?
Yeah, so the first tune was Singing the Blues. Oddly enough, that started with, you can kind of hear it as a chorus. It started off as a little blues lick, and I was like, oh, it's catchy. And a lot of the times with blues, you sing about heartbreak. So I was like, let's just make this the most traditional, cliche kind of bluesy lyrics I can come up with.
Right.
Just about, your heart being broken about this girl.
Was it written from experience, or was it like just writing a song?
Yeah, no one specific, but I think we all have gone through some sort of heartbreak in life, and I think
I have a very embarrassing story of a breakup where I was I'd gone down to try and make it right with this girl, and it didn't go the way I wanted it to, and then I was leaving the restaurant that we met at, and I was standing outside a takeaway, and Unbreak My Heart came through this little tinny like speaker, and it was raining, right?
Oh my God.
And I just burst into to Unbreak My Heart by Tony Braxton.
That's hilarious. She's like, you're pathetic. Come back.
I know, yeah.
Pretty good.
What was the other one about?
Second one was Mind Games. And I'm trying to, again, heartbreak type song. It starts off, funny enough, now's the time to be wondering why these tears come on by. Now that we're on the topic of tears, but this woman, why are you getting upset with her all the time? She's seeing someone else.
Yeah.
And then by the third verse, you're just over it.
Gotcha.
Just over it.
Moved on.
Moved on.
Yeah.
But the chorus is Mind Games. it's always messing with your emotions, you know, and that I guess could come from no one specific, but we've all been there. You know what I mean? We've all been there.
Have you got a little to say about the last song that you played?
Sure, Help Me. That's just a blues tune, you know, a classic blues tune that I like putting my soul into it. It's been done by a couple other artists, but you know, this one I kind of like break it down a little bit slower, and definitely
great.
one of my favorite blues tunes. You know,
yeah, you really have great piano chops, and just in case anyone was curious, Tony nailed every one of those songs in one take and just breezed onto the next one like he was doing laundry. I mean, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, it felt great.
Yeah. He's really an exceptional musician. So you play a Nord Electro, which is pretty much industry standard for keyboard players. And how do you like it?
Love it. I have the Nord Electro 6D. And what's cool about this keyboard is the ability to layer.
Right.
So I think it comes stock with just amazing organic sounds. When I say organic, I refer to like piano sounds, you know, electric keyboard sounds, organ sounds. To me, you know, strings, violins, those are all organic to me, right? You're not getting too synthy type things.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for some quality organic sounds, it's an amazing keyboard with that layering ability to where you can stack 3 sounds on top of each other.
Yeah, that's great.
And initially I got that keyboard there. It's the 61 key. Because when you're playing in a band as a keyboard player, you don't necessarily want to get too much in the low register if you have a bass player. So I was, you know, for band purposes, the 61 key is great, but now that I'm kind of doing my own thing, I miss having the 81 keys.
That was like the first thing he said to me when I met up with you earlier, and I totally get it, you know, and especially now I've seen you play and seen your sort of level of proficiency on the piano, I'm like, oh yeah, he needs those extra keys.
Need them.
For sure. Yeah.
Need them, yeah. So the next keyboard's definitely going to have the rest of them.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, really the only thing that we have left to do is to talk about things that are coming up. So, you know, we talked about your gig, but let's plug it again. So it's July 9th, Crazy Uncle Mike's, right?
Yeah, July 9th, Crazy Uncle Mike's, Back to the Basics. I'm going to be officially releasing on all digital platforms my album. It's going to be a very exciting show. Not only am I going to be performing with my band, opening up, we have Shaw Davis and the Black Ties. If you don't know them, you got to look them up. Power trio. Shaw's a great guy, tears it on guitar. The whole group is amazing. They're down from Broward as well. That's how we know each other. And then before them, we have the amazing Sierra Lane.
Yeah.
She'll be doing an acoustic set to kick off the night.
561 Music's first guest.
Yeah, first guest, yeah. So she'll be there with Shaw. It'll just be a great night of a lot of awesome music. Yeah,
fantastic. That sounds brilliant. Do you have anything else coming up other than the album launch and this gig? You got any more gigs in the future?
Yeah. Solo-wise, no. I still fill in with a couple groups here and there. I play with, have you heard of Joel Da Silva?
Yeah.
Joel and I are very good friends. I gig with him quite a bit. Nice. So those are some things lined up. But this album has been taking up a lot of my time, so I'm just solely focused on it.
Yeah, man.
But I say goals to come after this is I'm doing a lot of writing, so I want to release a lot more music.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Killbillies this weekend. We got on Thursday, James and I are doing a duo at E.R. Bradley's from 6 to 9. That's in West Palm Beach, and it's on Flagler, just right next to the bridge if you're going over to Palm Beach Island. And then on Friday, we are playing at Castaways Craft Beer and Pizza on Singer Island. That's James and I again. That's 6:30 to 10:30. And then on the 25th, it's also James and I, and we're playing at the Square Grouper from 3 to 6. So that's the Killbillies weekend. Only 2 out of the 3 because Hector is sunning himself somewhere lovely, and who can blame him? It sounds absolutely fabulous. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on, man. You did a great job.
Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure to meet you. You are
Absolutely.
A sick musician, and
Much
I wish
love.
you all the luck in the world, man.
Thank you, my man. Thank you guys for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Right on.
Yeah,
cool.